Welcome to our afternoon keynote address. I had the privilege of moderating a panel that included Dr. Francis Kuria at our 2023 symposium a few years ago. He was then Secretary General of the African Council of Religious Leaders of the Religions for Peace organization. We're grateful he's back to contribute again to this year's symposium. In 2024, Dr. Kuria was promoted to Secretary General of Religions for Peace International and now guides more than 90 interreligious councils globally. He is also the administrative chair of the International Steering Group of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, an organization that won the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize. He is heavily engaged in interreligious and intergenerational dialogue and peace building, in combating radicalization and violent extremism, and in empowering youth and women at all levels in Kenya and elsewhere. He actively collaborates with various United Nations agencies on initiatives promoting peace, health, and human rights. And Dr. Kuria is a fascinating man. In previous lives, he worked as a financial analyst on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, served with an ambulance brigade for 16 years, and earned degrees in veterinary medicine and surgery. So I suspect if we invite him back in a few years, he will have also become an astronaut and will have invented a functioning time machine. So we're excited to see where he will be in a few years. His wife Florence is also with him at this symposium. She heads their family enterprise of running a primary school in Kenya that serves some 300 students. So they are an amazing family. Together they are the parents of 4 children. So welcome, please, with me, Dr. Francis Kuria.
Thank you, Ami, and it's nice to be back. I wish to extend my deep appreciation to the International Center for Law and Religious Studies at Brigham Young University and to the director, Professor Brett Schaafs, for actively and consistently promoting religious freedom and interreligious dialogue, contributing to law reform and organizing this symposium every year. This symposium provides a pivotal space to discuss issues of vital concern. It is heartwarming for me to read the theme of this year's conference, as it aligns perfectly with our current thinking in Religions for Peace. Actually, when I listened last night to Professor Schaaf's introduction, I wondered whether he has been attending our meetings at Religions for Peace quietly. I extend my thanks on behalf of Religions for Peace to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for championing religious freedom for all faiths and denominations. Religions for Peace is honored to be in partnership with you and look forward to further collaboration. It is my profound honor to speak on behalf of Religions for Peace to this room of dedicated men and women of faith, academics, and legal practitioners, each committed to preserving one another's right to practice their faith as they wish. Please allow me to begin by expressing my deep condolences to the recent passing of your beloved president, Dr. Rachel Nelson. Our thoughts and prayers are with the church, with his family and community during this time. May we find strength in the memory of his remarkable person and the leader he was. We live in a trying time. Rising intolerance and bigotry, heightened and inflamed by the anonymity of social media, is creating a new internal divisions and heightened tensions, and tragically, hate crimes and violence. We mourn and condole with your congregational members from Grand Blanc, Michigan, the latest manifestation of this growing hate. That incident serves as a devastating reminder for the urgent need to persist in promoting religious freedom for all. a responsibility which must not only address the theoretical aspects of religious freedom, but that requires our collaborative action, our collective action at community, societal, and global levels. Religious freedom is critical in forging a future of peace, inclusivity, a shared sacred well-being. It is the heart of civic and spiritual flourishing and is the foundation of dignity, community, and harmony across faiths. Enshrined in law and religious teachings, the right to believe is a fundamental right that must be upheld. Despite our agreement here on its importance, religious freedom is not yet universal. Certain groups, targets of rising authoritarianisms, violent extremism, religious-motivated violence, and politically motivated narratives of exclusion are barred from experiencing the basic freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Restrictions in religious freedom threatened over half of the world's population. Over half of the world's population, reflected in the persecution of minorities and the desecration of holy sites, the rise of hate speech and the silencing of dissenting voices. These injustices strike at the core of humanity, diminishing human dignity and weakening the bonds among communities. We in Religions for Peace have over 50 years worked to unite the world's faith communities in common action for peace, guided by a vision in which the world's religious communities join hands, take actions, and build peace across the world. Together, Religions for Peace and the Center of Law and Religion Studies share a vision of securing religious liberty for all that must be achieved through dialogue and collective effort. Let me share a few examples of the work of Religions for Peace and this vision and mission of peace. Religions for Peace promotes cooperation among faith leaders and communities to work for peace, bringing them together to heal historical and social fractures that create conflict and misunderstanding, undermining the achievement of peace. Championing freedom of thought, conscience, religion, and belief stands among Religions for Peace core strategic objectives. We have 6 strategic objectives, and this is strategic objective number 5. It is core to our mission. We use such an encompassing term rather than simply religious freedom to underscore the complexities of this issue and to bring multi-stakeholder actors into the conversation in an inclusive way. Under this strategic priority, Religions for Peace engages with governmental, intergovernmental, and civil society frameworks, providing safe spaces for inclusive and fraught conversations on religious freedom. We encourage encounter and positive discussions, balancing freedom of speech and the elimination of hate speech, and the introduction of blasphemy laws that are a big problem in many countries. Promoting an alliance of diverse religious traditions rooted in a shared sacred worldview, where each faith maintains its deep understanding and manifestation of the sacred, but works to encounter with others who have their own deep understanding of the sacred. Promotion of interreligious education and publication and promotion of literary works and materials that reinforce our understanding and grounding in multi-religious collaboration, and disseminating intergovernmental and multi-religious declarations that promote freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. That is what we do under that core objective. And for over 5 decades, we have promoted the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, not only as a legal right, but as a sacred moral obligation shared across faiths. Allow me to share with you a few examples of our work, showcasing the power of championing these freedoms and what they can do. Religions for Peace developed the Mahonok criteria for humanitarian assistance in complex emergencies, along with a multi-religious task force These ethical and legal guidelines remain a global benchmark for faith-sensitive humanitarian response, reinforcing neutrality, impartiality, and the protection of human dignity and faith in times of crisis. In response to rising attacks on sacred sites rooted in political, territorial, and religious tensions, Religions for Peace co-developed the Universal Code of Conduct on Holy Sites, offering a principled framework to prevent interreligious conflict and promote peace through preservation of religious heritage. This precedent informed the work of our Interreligious Council in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which led to a multi-year initiative to monitor and publicly condemn attacks on places of worship, collaboration with law enforcement and media, and build interfaith alliances for the protection of holy sites. In Southeast Asia, Religions for Peace and partners launched the Advancing Interreligious Dialogue and Freedom of Religion and Belief Toolkit, a project to enhance local capacities in combating religious discrimination and prejudice. Through this initiative, over 600 religious leaders and activists have participated over the recent years in an intensive interfaith fellowship where they have been trained in mediation, communication, process design, and interreligious peace building. Currently, members of our Interfaith Youth Committee, we have an international Interfaith Youth Committee, are developing a resource guide on protecting freedom of thought, conscience, religion for faith leaders among the youth. This guide will be a resource in future trainings and workshops for our youth around the world and tools to protect their sacred right to faith. Religions for Peace leadership in freedom of thought, conscience, and religion combines advocacy, education, interfaith solidarity, and policy influence. It demonstrates that these essential freedoms cannot be protected in a vacuum. They require bold cooperation between religious leaders, governments, and civil society. Despite the rising attacks on these essential rights across the world, the protection of religious freedom is upheld in multi-religious societies. Many initiatives on the governmental and grassroots levels exist which can look for inspiration in our journey towards a shared sacred flourishing. In Albania, our IRC there has institutionalized protection of the right to believe, which has nurtured a robust culture of mutual respect, reflected not only in institutions, but also in everyday life, through mixed faith families that are now protected, shared festivals and community solidarity, proving that a nation can overcome the darkness of repression of faith and emerge as a beacon of pluralism. Albania is a good example. Now let's discuss a bit on our methods of multi-faith dialogue and diversity. Behind these impactful initiatives, there are tried and true methods we implement to build strong protection for religious freedom that can apply to everyone. Today, I wish to highlight the importance of multi-faith dialogue and embracing diversity. Multi-faith dialogue is the heart and soul of nurturing these freedoms. And Religions for Peace calls on religious leaders from diverse traditions to unite in these dialogues, which provide powerful moral leadership and emphasize that interfaith harmony is both achievable and necessary. To embrace true multi-faith dialogue, we must champion the unity found in diversity. Humans of every faith, no matter their beliefs, share common values of love, mercy, compassion, justice, and respect for the intrinsic value of every human being. An essential component of embracing diversity is centering the voices of underrepresented groups, not only as participants, but as leaders of these conversations. Inclusive and intergenerational leadership that provides a platform for voices of women, youth, religious minorities, and indigenous leaders is crucial to supporting the work completed at the grassroots to global levels. Religions for Peace creates institutionalized spaces of dialogue, an essential process that ensures that these dialogues are persistent, ongoing, and lead to action. Dialogue must lead to action. Recently, we held our World Council meeting this year in Istanbul, and we were grateful that Elder Eric Gong of the Church of Jesus Christ was present and spoke about the intersection of faith and artificial intelligence, one of the key areas of concern for its danger of lowering human dignity. He offered poignant reflections on our humanity. To quote him, human benevolence, compassion, judgment, optimism, faith, that which speaks to and for our souls required lived experience and empathetic relationships. End of quote. Our lived experiences and dialogues with one another are what contributes to our humanity and ultimately to our shared sacred flourishing. Elder Gong implored us to look to our own religious heritages in order to foster this humanity. This is one such example of an interfaith dialogue that unlocks the very essence of our being. Such sharing continues at regional, national, and even local levels across the Religions for Peace vast networks. Religious leaders bringing their understanding and insights to common spaces of dialogue and action, dealing with issues of contemporary concern within their very contexts. It is through this that shared values emerge and from which we draw our strength, allowing us to make significant impact across diverse faith communities, establishing bonds and working together as a community of peace builders in addressing complex attacks on freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Dialogue must be fostered at institutional level to reinforce the work we do. Ad hoc dialogue is good. Institutionalized dialogue is essential. This is supplemented by outreach to government and other civil society organizations to advance a holistic approach, including establishing legal frameworks to protect these freedoms. I now wish to share our next phase of our work. And we're calling it the next phase of our work in establishing religious freedom, a shared sacred worldview for a shared sacred flourishing. Faith traditions have always had a sacred worldview, although this has not always been expressed in our common interactions and our interactions with others. And it is the experience of Religions for Peace that this situation where faith traditions have had deep dialogue, where they have had deep dialogue, they have come to the realization that this sacred worldview is shared across faith traditions. From this and the work of scholar practitioners that Religions for Peace has engaged, we have developed and are promoting and encouraging faith traditions to be more explicit in enunciating their worldview as that of a sacred worldview, and in so doing, a shared sacred worldview. A shared sacred worldview repudiates the current default worldview, which is individualistic, reductionist, and materialistic in nature. We are promoting a shared worldview that is relational and holistic, a worldview that recognizes that for the majority of the citizens of the world, faith is central to their understanding of who they are and their situation in the world. And their worldview is rooted in the sacred. This has had vital importance, as today's prevalent reductionist materialistic worldview severely distorts the concept of flourishing by excluding the sacred. This exclusion of the sacred profoundly wounds the human family, fostering isolation, a loss of meaning, cruel exploitation of man and the environment, and a wanton disregard of the earth. A misunderstanding of science supports this worldview. Which is a very narrow and non-relational worldview. This reductive materialistic worldview can be understood as a pervasive but typically acknowledged problem behind today's many challenges. The current worldview, the reductionist worldview, the materialistic worldview is actually behind many of the global problems we have. Conversely, developing a shared sacred worldview that is open to the plural expression of the sacred and a proper interpretation of science can be seen by faith communities as a background or fundamental solution for the many concrete solutions needed to meet today's challenges. A shared sacred worldview can help bring to light the roots of the current challenges in relation to the truth and goodness of the sacred. Importantly, adopting a shared sacred worldview as a meeting place of our diverse sacred worldview is not an effort to create a new syncretic religion or replace the unique worldviews that define each faith tradition. Instead, its goal is to emphasize our different experiences of the sacred and how they resonate or converge, forming a united front of resistance against the dominance of materialistic reduction and its distortions of flourishing. This will help faith communities to focus on engaging the sacred dimensions of our respective traditions, such as the virtues of love, mercy, compassion, forgiveness, self-sacrifice, and religiously motivated volunteerism for the common good. A shared sacred worldview will build a global common good. The social and moral strengths that the religious communities bring to their cooperative efforts are also directly linked to their respective experiences of the sacred. This will not be easy and faces several challenges. I look at the three main challenges that we have looked at. Successfully addressing three key challenges is essential for a useful vision of a shared sacred worldview for a shared sacred flourishing. These are honoring religious diversity as the first one. The shared sacred worldview paradigm draws on our commitment to religious diversity and freedom of religion and belief. Without centering the shared sacred worldview on the diversity of religions and freedom of religion and belief, it is impossible to have a convergence. We need to engage historical traditions with modern challenges. Religious scholars have identified the core features of the ancient sacred worldviews and skillfully and faithfully unfolded them to address modern issues, ensuring their traditions remain relevant today while staying true course to these origins. We have developed the shared sacred worldview framework with careful study of the historical tradition to ensure those traditions are respected and maintained. The third is integrating science. We have engaged scientists, and a distinguished group of scientists contributed to the vision of a shared sacred worldview framework by highlighting scientific advancements such as quantum mechanics and biological theories, which suggest intentionality and interconnectedness in nature. They challenge the still dominant material and mechanistic models of science, arguing that these models lacked solid scientific foundations. This group of advocates for a new natural philosophy that seeks the complementarity of the scientific and spiritual ways of inquiry, grounded in the sacred, share as a wonder at the mystery of existence. We, the people of faith, share this worldview, but each recognizing the sacred within their own tradition. A worldview that has as its telos, its ultimate objective, the highest level of human dignity and flourishing consummated in the sacred. Such a worldview we aspire to, which the sacred calls us to. This shared notion of flourishing, rooted in the sacred, is again shared across all faiths. Thus, we have a notion of a holistic, shared, sacred flourishing, in which all humans and the earth and its web of life flourish as the telos of all faith communities. Religions for Peace is thus advancing and encouraging faith communities to adopt and embrace the paradigm of a shared sacred worldview for a shared sacred flourishing. Such a notion of a shared sacred worldview is only possible in a world where freedom of thought, conscience, and religion are fully protected and realized. Thus, a shared sacred flourishing of all humans and the earth with its web of life is dependent on the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and that they are honored and protected for all. In conclusion, therefore, we must establish stronger and more inclusive protections against religious freedom that affirm all faiths. This begins with a combination of legal reform, interreligious, and intra-religious dialogue. There is a lot of challenge in intra-religious dialogue. Many minorities within majority faith communities suffer from this exclusion. We need grassroots action and culturally rooted leadership to advance the freedom of thought, conscience, and religions. Our actions must manifest in the prevention of hate speech, protecting holy sites, raising public awareness, and advocating for the rights of all individuals to believe or not to believe freely and without fear. Today's symposium and other forums that encourage authentic dialogue between players and stakeholders on religious freedom worldwide are fundamental to advancing conversation and action. Freedom of thought, conscience, and religions is dependent on conversation and cooperation, and we must sustain them. Events like these are concrete examples of the value that true religion brings to society. Building trust through authentic leadership, community ownership, creating safe spaces for dialogue, and connecting spiritual values to human rights and bridging values across sectors are imperative to securing a future of peace and full of compassion and shared flourishing. We will not see meaningful impact from dialogue alone. Our strength comes from our united actions. Dialogue must lead to action. Together, through the protection of religious freedom, we can ensure a future of peace, inclusivity, and flourishing for all. Thank you very much, and may peace be with you all.